17 suitcases, 17 million euros, 17 names. Ibrahim Traore looked at the list he had placed on the table. "All of this is money earned from our gold," he said. Everyone at the airport was watching silently. The VIP section of Ouagadougou Airport had never been this tense. It was midnight. Outside, Africa's starry sky. Inside, witnesses to an event that would change history. Normally, at this hour, the airport would be nearly empty. Just security guards on night shift, one or two cleaning staff, and perhaps a few passengers waiting for a delayed flight. But tonight was different. Ibrahim Traore's special security team had taken control of every corner of the airport. Red Beret soldiers had taken positions at strategic points. The French diplomatic plane on the runway was surrounded by armored vehicles. The plane's engines were still running, the pilot still waiting for takeoff clearance, but that clearance would never come. The VIP lounge windows were fogged with condensation. The tension inside contrasted with the cold night air outside. Gathered around the long polished table were Burkina Faso's young leader, Ibrahim Traore, Intelligence Chief Colonel Mamadou Kabore, Airport Director Ousmane Diallo, Justice Minister Aminata Traore, and of course the night's main actor, French Ambassador Jacques Dubois. Sweat dripped from Dubois' forehead down to his collar. His expensive suit was soaked with perspiration. His hands trembled slightly, and he kept changing position to hide it. "Mr. President," he began, trying to control his voice, "this must be a misunderstanding. Diplomatic immunity under international law." Traore raised his hand, silencing him. There was not anger, but disappointment in his eyes. "Immunity, Ambassador," he said in a calm but firm voice, "is not a shield to be used for stealing our country's wealth. A diplomatic passport is not sufficient for committing theft." Kabore opened the thick file on the table. He pulled out photographs, images from airport security cameras. 10:47 p.m., he began reading. 3 vehicles from the French embassy enter the airport. 11:15 p.m., these 17 suitcases are loaded onto the plane. 11:38 p.m., you arrive at the VIP lounge. 11:45 p.m., the plane requests takeoff clearance. "These are diplomatic cargo," Dubois protested. "Under the Vienna Convention?" "The Vienna Convention," Justice Minister Aminata interrupted, "also states that diplomatic cargo must not contain weapons, drugs, or illegal materials. What's in these suitcases, Ambassador?" Dubois fell silent. His eyes darted toward the door, perhaps looking for an escape route. But 2 soldiers stood at the door. There was no escape. "Open them," said Traore. One word. But the weight of that word filled the entire room. 2 soldiers lifted the first suitcase onto the table. It was black, sturdy-looking. It had diplomatic seals on it. Kabore photographed each seal. "Evidence," he said, "so no one can deny it." The suitcase lock was opened. The lid was slowly raised. When the contents became visible, Airport Director Diallo involuntarily whistled. "My God," he murmured. The suitcase was filled to the brim with money, euro banknotes arranged in neat stacks. Each stack was wrapped with bands. They bore the seals of the French Central Bank. Kabore put on his gloves and took 1 stack. 100 euro notes, 10,000 euros in each stack. Total ... He counted quickly. Exactly 1 million euros. "But this is just the beginning," said Traore. He opened the side compartment of the suitcase. Gold bars came out, each stamped with Burkina Faso's mark. "These are our gold. Gold from our country's mines, the product of our people's labor." Dubois' face had turned ashen. I don't know about these. Embassy personnel acting on their own." "Don't lie," said Aminata harshly. "Look, each bar has a date, all extracted within the last month, and all left with export records. But who received the payment?" The second suitcase was opened. This time, documents came out. Hundreds of pages. Kabore checked the documents with his UV light. "These are originals," he said in amazement. "Not photocopies. Original state documents." Traore began examining the documents. His face grew more serious with each page he read. "Mining maps," he said. "Gold reserves not yet announced to the public. Uranium deposits. Even ... He paused. "Even our newly discovered oil fields. This information is ultra-secret," said Kabore. "Only 5 people know. You, me, the energy minister, the chief of staff, and..." He stopped. His eyes caught on a name on the list. "And geology director Pascal Ouedraogo." Traore completed. So, he's been bought. Airport Director Diallo asked curiously, "How valuable is this information?" Aminata answered, "If foreign companies learn this information in advance, they can position themselves before tenders. They can buy land. They can make agreements with local companies. They can gain billions of dollars in advantage." As the third suitcase was opened, Dubois tried to stand. "I need to use the restroom," he said. "Sit down," said Traore. His tone hadn't changed, but the steel will within was palpable. "We're just getting started." Photographs came out of the third suitcase. Hundreds of photographs. Caboret began spreading the photos on the table. Each told a different story. "Minister Sawadogo at a nightclub in Paris," he said, showing the first photo. "Who's with him?" "French arms dealers." "General Compaoré at a bank in Geneva," he continued. "What's that briefcase in his hand? Money?" "Governor Zungrana's wife shopping in Paris. Who's paying the bill? A French mining company." The photographs seemed endless. Each had been carefully taken. Dates, times, locations were noted. A professional surveillance and blackmail operation. "What were you going to do with these?" Traore asked Dubois. "Blackmail?" Dubois didn't answer. He couldn't, because the answer was too obvious. When the fourth suitcase was opened, Caboret stepped back. "Weapons," he said. "Be careful." The suitcase was full of state-of-the-art spy equipment. Listening devices of all sizes. Camera systems so small they could fit inside a button. Drones the size of birds. Signal jammers. Frequency scanners. "These aren't ordinary equipment," said Caboret, examining a device. "Look, it has the NSA logo. This is American intelligence equipment. How did it get to France?" "NATO," said Traore. "Technology sharing among allies. But the place of use is Africa's independent countries." The fifth suitcase contained identities. Dozens of fake IDs. Passports, driver's licenses, diplomatic cards. All in different names, but the photos belonged to the same people. "I recognize this face," said Diallo, showing a passport. "He came last month, as a human rights observer." "This one was with us last week," said Aminata, showing another ID. "As a journalist, he interviewed Minister Sawadogo." "Same person," said Caboret, "but three different identities. Jean-Pierre Martin, François Dubois, Michel Bernard, all different professions, different countries." Traore stood and walked to the window. Outside, he looked at the plane still waiting on the runway. "How many years have you been playing this game?" he asked Dubois with his back turned. Dubois continued his silence. "How many years have you been sending spies to our country? How many years have you been controlling our leaders with blackmail? How many years have you been stealing our gold, our uranium, and now our oil?" When the sixth suitcase was opened, the silence deepened further. Inside were Burkina Faso Army's most secret documents. Deployment plans, weapons inventory, personnel lists, weak points. "This information is in the General Staff's safe," said Caboret in shock. "Only 3 people can access it." "4, said Traore. "You forgot cleaning, Lady Mariam. She's been working there for 20 years. Nobody pays attention to her, but she sees everything, hears everything." "Mariam?" Caboret couldn't believe it. "That old woman?" "Don't be fooled by appearances," said Traore. "The best spies are those who arouse the least suspicion." The seventh suitcase was full of money, but this time there were different currencies. Dollars, euros, pounds, even Chinese yuan. "Bribery fund," said Aminata. "Payment in whatever currency everyone wants." The eighth suitcase contained luxury items, expensive watches, jewelry, electronic devices. Each had small cards on them. "Dear Minister Traore, a small gift," Caboret read. "For General Kafando's valued wife. Graduation gift for Governor Zungrana's son." "They're buying families too," said Aminata with disgust. "Not just officials, but their wives, children." When the ninth suitcase was opened, Caboret dropped the papers in his hand. This is impossible." Inside were documents related to Traore's private life. Photographs, audio recordings, even medical reports. "My last checkup results," said Traore, taking the documents. "Only my doctor and I knew." "Look," said Caboret, showing another document. "Transcripts of your private security meetings, word for word." Traore examined the documents. "Date, last Tuesday. Time, 3 p.m. Location, secure room, Participants, me, you, Defense Minister. Subject, closure of French bases. We swept that room like crazy, said Caboret. Impossible. There can't be a listening device. Maybe there's no device, said Traore. But there's a person. Everyone looked at each other. Only 3 people had entered the secure room. And all 3 were in this room. Unless... The Defense Minister, said Caboret slowly. He didn't come to that meeting, he was sick. No, said Traore. He came. But only for 5 minutes. He left saying there was an urgent call. Do you remember? Caboret remembered. Yes, about the arms shipment from France. From France, Traore repeated. What a coincidence. The 10th suitcase contained scientific reports, geological research, soil analyses, water resource maps. These are state secrets, said Aminata. Reports our universities and research centers worked years to prepare. And now French companies will use these to make us offers, said Traore, as if they discovered them themselves. The 11th suitcase was full of propaganda materials, brochures, posters, prepared videos. A new future for Burkina Faso, Caboret read. Leader, General Laurent Compaoré. Laurent Compaoré, said Traore thoughtfully. We thought he died in the 2019 coup attempt. Apparently he's alive, said Caboret, and the French have been hiding him. Look at the videos, said Aminata. Professional production, expensive equipment. Impossible to film these in Burkina Faso. Filmed in Paris, said Traore, examining the video background. You can see the top of the Eiffel Tower there. The 12th suitcase contained chemicals, small bottles, powder packets, capsules. What are these? Asked Diallo. Caboret took one and examined it. His face paled. Poison, all different types of poisons. Odorless, tasteless, leaves no trace. He read the labels. Simulates heart attack, mimics stroke, appears like food poisoning. Assassination kit, said Traore. Who were you going to kill with these, Ambassador? Dubois finally spoke. I'm just a courier. I don't know what these are. You don't know, said Traore. But you loaded 17 suitcases yourself. Security cameras show you. When the 13th suitcase was opened, a technology expert was urgently called. It was full of hard drives, USB drives, and CDs. Technology expert Abdoulaye, after a few minutes of examination, raised his head. Mr. President, these are copies of our entire digital infrastructure. What do you mean? Asked Aminata. Our government systems, our banking network, our telecommunications infrastructure. Everything is backed up here, with passwords. So? Asked Diallo. So, said Abdoulaye, whoever has these can paralyze the entire country. They can stop banks, cut communications, even disable the power grid. Cyber warfare weapons, said Traore. Now they fight not with tanks and planes, but with computers. The 14th suitcase contained oil and gas agreements, drafts, contracts, signature pages. Look at this clause, said Aminata, showing a contract. 80% of all oil and gas found will belong to the French company. Burkina Faso will only get 20%. And here, added Caboret, 50-year concession. They'll exploit our oil for half a century. The worst part, said Traore, showing the signature page. Here's my fake signature, a perfect forgery. The 15th suitcase contained lists of names. Hundreds, thousands of names. Students, teachers, journalists, union members, clergy, artists. What kind of list is this? Asked Diallo. Traore's face darkened as he examined the list. Threat list. Everyone who might oppose the new regime. Look, said Aminata, showing a page. There are codes next to names. K, to be closed. T, to be arrested. S, exile. To be killed. How many have O next to them? Asked Caboret. Aminata counted. 47 people, including journalists, judges, opposition leaders. And me, said Traore, showing his own name. First on the list. The 16th suitcase contained satellite photos and maps. Every corner of Burkina Faso, every strategic point was depicted in detail. These are military satellite images, said Caboret. The resolution is so high you can read license plates. Here, said Traore, showing a map. All our military bases are marked. Our weapons depots, fuel tanks, ammunition stores. Invasion plan, said Aminata. Everything is ready. They're just waiting for orders. Before opening the 17th and final suitcase, Traore took a deep breath. This is the last one, he said. Let's see what surprises it has. When the suitcase was opened, there was only one file inside. Thick, black covered. Written in gold letters, Operation Sankara, secret. Traore took the file. His hands trembled slightly. Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's legendary leader, had been killed in 1987. And now, 36 years later, he opened the first page. At the top was the date, October 15th, 1987. The day Sankara was killed. Operation Sankara, Traore began reading. Objective, elimination of Thomas Sankara and installation of a pro-Western government. The room fell into silence. Everyone held their breath, listening. Participants: French Secret Service, DGSE, CIA Liaison Officer, Blaise Compaoré, and 12 Burkinabe officers. Method: armed assault during palace meeting, killing of Sankara and 12 comrades. Result: operation successful. Blaise Compaoré brought to power. French interests secured. Traore turned the pages. There were photographs. Sankara's body, bullet holes, blood stains. And look, he said, showing the last pages. Operation Sankara, Phase 2. Date, 2023 to 2024. Target, Ibrahim Traore. Objective, elimination of Traore, who continues Sankara's legacy. Method, first political pressure, if unsuccessful economic embargo, as last resort physical elimination. Preparation, purchase of 17 high-level Burkinabe officials. Preparation of Laurent Compaoré as backup leader. Budget, 50 million euros. Approval, received from Paris, operation active. Traore closed the file. His face was expressionless, but there was deep sadness in his eyes. 36 years, he said. 36 years later, the same scenario, same methods, same killers. Dubois stood up. I didn't know about these. I swear. Just the suitcases. Be quiet, said Traore. It's not time to talk anymore. He turned to Caboret. Colonel, everyone on the 17 name list will be arrested immediately. Their homes, offices will be searched. Their assets will be seized. Yes, sir. Aminata, extraordinary parliament meeting tomorrow morning. These documents will be shown to the MPs. The people will learn everything. Understood, Mr. President. Diallo, the airport will be closed. No one can enter or leave. All flights cancelled. As you command. Finally, he turned to Dubois. You, Ambassador, I'll give you one chance. Just one chance. Dubois looked hopefully. You'll return to Paris, but not alone. I'm sending a message with you. Copies of the 17 suitcases. Every document, every photograph, every audio recording. And you'll deliver this message. Traore walked toward the window. Outside, dawn was about to break. The African sun was beginning to appear on the horizon. Burkina Faso is no longer a colony. Our gold, our uranium, our oil are ours. You cannot buy our people with blackmail, threats, money. You killed Thomas Sankara, but you couldn't kill his ideas. He turned to Dubois. And finally, tell Laurent Compaoré and his friends. Let them come. We're ready. But this time the result will be different. What if France reacts? Asked Dubois. Economic sanctions? Military intervention? Let them come, said Traore. It's not 1987 anymore. Africa is awakening. Mali, Guinea, Niger, we're all together, and the world is watching. At 6 a.m., Burkina Faso National Television interrupted its broadcast. Traore appeared on screen. Behind him, 17 suitcases were lined up. Dear citizens, he began, tonight we witnessed one of the most important events in our history. 17 suitcases were seized. I will share their contents with you. For the next 2 hours, Traore showed the contents of each suitcase one by one. Documents, photographs, money, weapons. Everything was shown live to the whole world. 17 suitcases, he said finally. 17 million euros, 17 traitors. But we are 17 million Burkinabe, and now we are awake. When the broadcast ended, there were thousands of people on the streets of Ouagadougou, with flags, banners in their hands. Long live independence! Zrenya, down with colonialism. Component placement. Sankara's children are awakening. In Paris, crisis meetings were being held. The French president was angry. This is unacceptable. We must intervene immediately. But the foreign minister was more cautious. Mr. President, the whole world is watching. The evidence is very clear. If we intervene, we'll lose all of Africa. So what will we do? Will we do nothing? Shouted the defense minister. "We'll wait," said an old diplomat, "and hope that other African countries don't do the same." But it was too late. Burkina Faso's courage had created a domino effect. In Mali, President Assimi Goïta called an emergency meeting. "All French company contracts will be reviewed," he said, "and strict inspections will begin at our airports." In Niger, thousands of young people took to the streets. "We want 17 suitcases too," they shouted. "Our uranium is ours." Similar movements began in Guinea, Senegal, Ivory Coast. Africa's young leaders were inspired by Traore's courage. An emergency session was called at the United Nations. The French representative spoke, "This is a violation of diplomatic immunity. It's against international law." The Burkina Faso representative stood up. He had files in his hand. "Mr. President, what does international law say about stealing sovereign countries' resources? What does it say about controlling their leaders with blackmail? What does it say about killing Thomas Sankara?" There was silence in the hall. "Here's the evidence," said the representative, placing the files on the table. "The contents of the 17 suitcases. Let everyone see. Let everyone know." The Chinese representative took the floor. "We support Burkina Faso's sovereignty rights." The Russian representative added, "The age of colonialism has ended. Those who don't accept this will remain in history." The U.S. representative remained silent, could neither openly support France nor Burkina Faso. Strategic ambiguity. That evening, there was a public celebration in Ouagadougou. Fires were lit in the squares, drums were played, songs were sung. An old man was crying, holding Thomas Sankara's photograph. "We waited 36 years, he was saying. "Finally, justice has been served." A young woman spoke into the microphone. "My father works in the mine. He gets $2 a day. The value of the gold he extracts is $10,000. Now this will change." A group of students was chanting, "Education will be free. Healthcare will be free. Because our resources are ours." In the palace, Traore was tired but determined. The cabinet meeting continued. "What happens tomorrow?" asked the defense minister. "France won't stand idle." "We're prepared," said Traore. "We have a defense agreement with Mali and Niger. Russia and China promise support, and most importantly, our people are with us." "Economic sanctions?" asked the economy minister. "We have gold," said Traore. "We have uranium. Soon we'll have oil. We'll print our own currency. We'll establish our own bank. We'll create a common market with the African Union." "What about the traitors inside?" asked the interior minister. 17 people in custody, said Kabore. "Interrogations continue. So far they've given 50 more names. The network is bigger than we thought." "We'll clean them all," said Traore. "But they'll be judged fairly. We're not like them. We're a state of law." At midnight, when Traore was alone, he went out to the balcony. Ouagadougou stretched beneath its lights. Celebration sounds were still coming. He took out a small photograph from his pocket. Thomas Sankara's photograph. "We did it, Commander," he whispered. "Late, but we did it." The next morning, French newspapers showed Traore in their headlines as dictator, thief, terrorist. But no one believed anymore. Images of the 17 suitcases had gone viral on social media. The number 17 suitcases hashtag trended worldwide. Debates began in the European Parliament. Progressive MPs criticized France. "We're in the 21st century. Are you still doing colonialism?" Conservative MPs went on the defensive. "These are Africa's own internal affairs." But the truth was, Pandora's box had been opened, and it would never close again. A week later, there was a surprise development. A delegation came from France, led by an old diplomat, Pierre Faucard, grandson of Jacques Faucard. "We want to talk," he said. "We want to open a new page." Traore accepted, but he had conditions. "The talks will be broadcast live. My people will see everything." Faucard had to accept. When the talks began, Traore took the first word. "First, let's face the past. You had Thomas Sankara killed. Do you admit it?" Faucard spoke after a long silence. "In the past, mistakes were made." "Mistakes?" Traore raised his voice. "Is killing a leader a mistake?" "Okay," said Faucard. "Yes, France played a role. We're sorry." This confession was broadcast live to the whole world. It was a historic moment. "Now let's look to the future," said Traore. "Burkina Faso is a sovereign country. Our resources are ours. Do you accept this?" "Yes," said Foucault. We accept. All mining contracts will be cancelled. New ones will be made under fair conditions. Do you accept? We can discuss, said Foucault. No, said Traore. No discussion. Do you accept? Foucault called Paris. After a long phone conversation, he returned. We accept. Your military bases will be closed. Your soldiers will leave our country. This is unacceptable, said Foucault. Then the talks are over, said Traore, standing up. Wait, said Foucault. Okay, we accept. And so, after hours of talks, a historic agreement was signed. Burkina Faso gained full independence, but the story wasn't over. A month later, Laurent Compaoré tried to cross the Burkina Faso border with 200 mercenaries. Goal, stage a coup, overthrow Traoré. But Traoré was prepared. Intelligence had reported everything in advance. An ambush was set at the border. The clash was brief. The mercenaries surrendered. Laurent Compaoré was captured. In court, Compaoré confessed everything. France gave money, gave weapons, promised support, but they lied. They left me alone. 6 months after the 17 Suitcases incident, Burkina Faso's economy showed unexpected growth. Revenues from gold exports were returning to the people for the first time. A school was built in every village. A health center was opened in every neighborhood. Job opportunities were created for unemployed youth. Agricultural projects were started. The international press was amazed. The Burkina Faso miracle, they wrote. Traoré said in a speech, "There's no miracle. We're just using our own resources ourselves. It's that simple." The 17 suitcases were moved to a museum. It was named National Independence Museum. Hundreds of visitors came every day. Schools brought students. An old teacher was explaining to students, "Here, children, in these suitcases was our country's stolen future, but our president took it back." A little girl asked, "Teacher, will the French come again?" The teacher smiled. "Even if they come, we're awake now. We won't sleep again." And indeed, Burkina Faso never slept again. The 17 suitcases weren't just money and documents. They were a symbol of awakening, resistance, victory. Years later, history books would write, "The 17 Suitcases incident was the beginning of Africa's second independence movement. The first independence was political. The second was economic. And this time, it was real." Traoré went down in history as the leader who opened the 17 suitcases. But he always said, "I just opened the suitcases. The real work was done by my people. They woke up, claimed ownership, fought. The victory is theirs." And Burkina Faso once again lived up to its name, Land of Upright People. 17 suitcases, 17 million euros, 17 traitors. But in the end, one truth: freedom. That night at the airport, it wasn't just suitcases that were opened. A nation's eyes were opened, and they would never close again. The last word belonged to a little girl. Looking at the 17 suitcases in the museum, she asked her mother, "Mom, is our gold ours now?" "Yes, my daughter," said her mother. "It's ours now." "Forever?" "Forever." And the little girl smiled, because she knew she now had a future, a real future, a free future opened by 17 suitcases.
All right, I find the article, and I think that this is the biggest article. You know, everybody knows, me and Winnie Mandela a friend, Rasta. Yes. Me write poem about Winnie Mandela, and me hardly write poem about individuals on the certain levels. We sit down and talk to her more than one time. As a matter of fact, the last time I go there, I mean, no see her, them say she dey on the road because, you know, say she's back in the party as a strong member of the party. She have the youth them a rally around her. All right, now we know say the world love, well, not the world, well, the world, especially the white world. The white world, I say it all the while, say to the white world, Nelson Mandela is like Jesus Christ. Yeah, man. Nelson Mandela to the white world is like Jesus Christ. If Nelson Mandela sneeze in a South Africa, the stock market drop. May I tell you, them hold him in high regard because him let off the apartheid regime just like that. All right. This is something where me hear, where everybody know in a South Africa how Winnie Mandela feel. Me sit down with her and me hear how she feel about the whole thing. But this is the first time now, internationally, the world is going to hear when Winnie Mandela think in her mind. This is the first time now she's going publicly outside of South Africa, say what she have in her thoughts. Where even though the ANC are going like, them themselves know what she say, what she in a South Africa think, and what she say in a South Africa. Now this shocked the whole world. Where Winnie Mandela say, this shocked them. And the reason why it shocked them is because of how them view Nelson Mandela. All right. The article, which I am going to read from, let us see which paper this article come from. As a matter of fact, Winnie Mandela is not in South Africa at the moment. She's in America, I think, and she was speaking to a journalist here. And this is coming from Johannesburg, March 10th, to the hour. Today, March 10th. I can see, March 10th. Yes, right. So me have it, Chris. It's not old news, it's a real news, I know. Ex-wife, Nelson Mandela let us down. Criticism of 92-year-old anti-apartheid icon draws outrage in South Africa. All right, now. This a woman now appease white people. She has said where she come, where they in her heart, where she feel as a woman. Where, believe you me, if I'm gonna say it non-apologetically, if it wasn't for Winnie Mandela, hardly anyone would have really know Nelson Mandela. Because it's when Nelson Mandela in a prison, Winnie Mandela by herself fight for make the world know say there's a man in a prison who stand up for black people at any cost. No. A British newspaper interview that quotes Nelson Mandela's ex-wife bitterly criticizing the 92-year-old anti-apartheid icon as having let us down prompted outrage Wednesday in South Africa. Winnie Mandela also said she could not forgive Mandela for accepting the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993 alongside F.W. de Klerk, the white president who released him and went on to participate in negotiations that ended apartheid. No. Everybody who is what we call Pan-Africanist, black conscious, or whatever I want to call radical, was really taken aback, really, when Nelson Mandela and de Klerk got the Peace Prize together. No. According to Tuesday's Evening Standard, quote, he agreed to a bad deal for the blacks economically. We're all still on the outside. The economy is very much white. It has a few token blacks, but so many who gave their life in the struggle have died unrewarded. Winnie Mandela is quoted as saying. The Star newspaper in Johannesburg accused Winnie Mandela of unleashing a rant. The governing African National Congress said it would not comment until its leaders could discuss the article with Winnie Mandela, who was traveling abroad Wednesday. No, look here, man. The ANC, no, trust me, believe you me. Me go to South Africa, me go among some of them politicians there, me go amongst Winnie Mandela. Them know say as such I think. Them a try appease foreign press now when them a say them have to go contact her to find out if she really say them thing there. Them know say as such a thing. Mandela, this is Nelson Mandela, is revered by blacks and whites in South Africa. But it's not about criticism, but it's not above criticism. The most common are complaints that he devoted too much time during his 1994-99 presidency to seeking reconciliation with whites and too little to uplifting blacks mired in poverty by apartheid. Yet, Winnie Mandela's comments contrast sharply with those she made only last month at a forum marking the 20th anniversary of his release from prison. She said then that Nelson Mandela was loved and recognized around the world for his fearlessness and that he had emerged from prison still committed to revolution. The contrast prompted the Johannesburg newspaper, The Times, to accuse her of having two faces. Mandela accused Winnie Mandela, his second wife, of infidelity, and the two divorced in 1996, 6 years after he walked free, following 27 years in prison. In recent years, Winnie Mandela has often joined Nelson Mandela and his third wife, former Mozambican First Lady Garcia Machel, at family gatherings. After a series of scandals over violence and fraud, Winnie Mandela also has regained prominence in the ANC, where she is embraced in particular by young members impatient with the slow pace of change since apartheid ended in 1994. After internal party voting, she was high on the ANC's list of candidates in last year's election and sits in parliament. I would have you know that them banned Winnie Mandela from go to Canada. In the interview, Winnie Mandela is quoted as accusing the current ANC leadership of exploiting Mandela's image while sidelining him as a leader and accusing his foundation of using him to raise money. Mandela is largely retired now, with several foundations led by the Nelson Mandela Foundation carrying out his work. In February, Winnie Mandela called the foundations a lasting tribute to his legacy. The Nelson Mandela Foundation did not respond to requests for comment Wednesday. The Standard article also quotes Winnie Mandela as criticizing South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which was an attempt to address the horrors of apartheid without pursuing retribution. In the interview, she called its leader, Nobel Peace Prize laureate Desmond Tutu, a cretin. Tutu, through his office, refused comment. The Evening Standard interview was with Nadira Napal, wife of Nobel laureate V.S. Napal, in the Standard article. Nadira Napal said she and her husband were touring Africa when they met Winnie Mandela in her mansion in Soweto. They were in South Africa last year. All right. That is an article put out today in the newspaper then in Johannesburg. So we want to read the next article because a lot of these things is things that most people who is relating to what is taking place in South Africa will agree with as what you call minority as it sounds. But a lot of people would agree with what she's saying. And guess what? Me agree with her. Going to South Africa as an outsider and seeing South Africa right now, yeah, you see the token blacks, you see this and that are going there, you know. I mean, you go to the airport, you know, taxi man them, black people, drive their Mercedes Benz and ray. But for the majority of people, it really looks same way like apartheid is in effect. The ANC was trying to contact Winnie Mandela to find out if she really had said Nelson Mandela had let down black people. An official said on Tuesday, quote, she is in the USA now and we are in the process of trying to locate her, said African National Congress spokesman Ishmael Mensi. But look at now, when them a try contact her for, them know say so she think. Them politicians are easy, you know. Them know say so she think, you know. We want to ask her if these comments were made by her, if this is exactly what she said. MNC denied a report that Winnie Mandela would be called to explain herself at the party's National Executive Committee meeting next week. That is not correct. Party keen to verify remarks. That is not correct. What we said is that we would wait for her to verify if these reports are truly attributed to her, said Mnisi. The struggle stalwart apparently lashed out at her ex-husband in an interview published in the London Evening Standard this week. She said Mandela has become a corporate foundation. No, I wonder if you have followed the politics of South Africa, you will know, say, when she said corporate foundation, it is a corporate foundation. If Mandela sneezed, the stock market crash. Winnie Mandela said, Nelson Mandela has become a corporate foundation who was being wheeled out to collect the money. Winnie Mandela also called Bishop Tutu a Crichton in the interview with Nadira Napal, who visited her with her husband, the writer V.S. Napal in Soweto. Mandela let us down. I could have tell him, so I could have make a money off it because the same thing when me hear she tell the man, the same thing she tell me. And I can tell you even more things when she said too. He agreed to a bad deal for the blacks. Economically, we are still on the outside. The economy is very much white. It has a few token black. But so many who give their life in the struggle have died unrewarded, Winnie Mandela said. She said Mandela had no control over the ANC anymore and was being used by the Nelson Mandela Foundation to raise funds. Look what they make him do, the great Mandela. He has no control or say anymore. They put that huge statue of him right in the middle of the most affluent white area of Johannesburg. Not here, which means she talk about Soweto. Look what they did. He has no control, I say, anymore. They put the huge statue of him right in the middle of the most affluent white area of Johannesburg. Black people, I want to tell you something. Nelson Mandela statue is also in the most affluent white area in London. Seriously, the most affluent white area. There's a statue of Nelson Mandela in London. Believe you me, I kid you not, I saw it. Nelson Mandela, all right, we can read up here. So, look what they made him do, the great Mandela. He has no control, I say, anymore. They put that huge statue of him right in the middle of the most affluent white area of Johannesburg. Not here, where we spilled our blood and where it all started. Mandela is now a corporate foundation. He's wheeled out globally to collect the money, and he's content doing that. The ANC have effectively sidelined him, but they keep him as a figurehead for the sake of appearance. Winnie Mandela said Mandela was not the only leader who had suffered. This name Mandela is an albatross around the necks of my family. You all must realize that Nelson Mandela was not the only man who suffered. There were many others, hundreds, who languished in prison and died. Do you think the clerk released him for the goodness of his heart? This is the question she asks. Do you think that the clerk released him for the goodness of his heart? Many unsung and unknown heroes of the struggle, and there were others in the leadership too, like poor Steve Biko, who died of the beatings horrible all alone. Mandela did go to prison, and he went in there as a burning young revolutionary. But look what came out. Winnie Mandela also criticized her former husband in the interview for accepting the Nobel Peace Prize with former President F.W. de Klerk. I cannot forgive him for going to receive the Nobel Prize in 1993 with his jailer, de Klerk, and in and they went. Do you think de Klerk released him from the goodness of his heart? He had to. The times dictated it. The world had changed, and our struggle was not a flash in the pan. It was bloody to say the least, and we had given rivers of blood. I had kept it alive with every means at my disposal. She also lashed out at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission process, criticizing Tutu, its chairman. Look at this Truth and Reconciliation charade. Mandela, should never have agreed to it. What good does the truth do? How does it help anyone to know where and how their loved ones were killed and buried? That Bishop Tutu who turned it all into a religious circus. came here. He had the cheek to tell me to appear. I told him a few home truths. I told him that he and his other like-minded Crichtons were only sitting here because of our struggle. And me, because of the things I and people like me had done to get freedom. Looking back, she said the movement actions were badly planned. You know, sometimes I think we had not thought it all out. There was no planning from our side. How could we? We were badly educated and the leadership does not acknowledge that. Maybe we have to go back to the drawing board and see where it all went wrong. That is Winnie Mandela. These are words attributed to Winnie Mandela. Serious words in this time, yeah. When everybody looking upon Nelson Mandela as Jesus, she's now saying, well, them ostracized her from long time, from him in a prison. When them tell her said that she did a deal with her next man, and the NC demand that she divorce for the sake of looks. For the sake of looks, the ANC demand that Mandela divorce his wife because of her infidelity. I mean, I tell you the truth, if it wasn't she would know nothing about Mandela, Nelson Mandela. When me did just start know about Nelson Mandela, I Winnie Mandela me hear attack and I said this and I said that about him. And I mean, we know about him from prison days and rare from in a prison and him never bow to certain things. But can you imagine a man named the Doctor of Death go into a court and acknowledge, say him used to put anthrax and other, it was there by the apartheid regime, the clerk regime, to create poisons that you can place all in a t-shirt to kill black people. And the man just tell the people them said that him used to do. Yeah, a whole heap of black people me kill, you know. With the anthrax and with all the things that we invent to kill black people. Even certain disease where them create for only attack the genes of black people. This man get up in the Truth and Reconciliation and tell the world, say him do these things. And he's walking the streets now. It's a weird thing. And when I talk about revenge, you know, when I talk about revenge, we talk about justice. Winnie Mandela tell me, say, why she never know, say, at this she did a fight for. All them struggle where she did a go through. She never know, say, it's this kind of South Africa she did a fight for. Now she bust out. She has said loud and clear now. So, me don't know that I got turn out because she's one of the most she is the most popular woman. As a matter of fact, it is said in certain quarters that she could possibly be the next president of South Africa. But guess what? Oh? America, England, Canada, them not gonna allow that. Them not gonna allow that. Because they know, say, if Winnie Mandela become president, man, them need a Jesus, man. Me I tell you, them need a Jesus. We not gonna trouble them. We not no change. On the face there, but really and truly, white people, black people have political power in South Africa, but the economical power is still maintained by whites. Anyway, in South Africa you go, the youth, them will tell you that. People who is really a look upon the thing, them will tell you that. Black people in South Africa have political power, but really and truly, the economy is still in the hands of Europeans. And that is what Winnie say. Say it never changed economically for black people in South Africa. This is the cutting edge, you know, and IRFM, we're there with you. So, we read that article. We know, so you can go Google it, you know, and read for yourself. It's a serious article.